All right, everyone. We are back live from the Slovenian mountains. Actually, Nikolai is in the Slovenian mountains. We spent an entire week together in the Slovenian mountains. How are you today?
Spectacular. Enjoying the view of the mountains. A little bit cloudy today, but I think it's gonna clear up and probably gonna go for a walk. Yeah, it was. We had a spectacular week of I'd say like-minded people from very different walks of life.
Yes, it's a good way to put it. I I see you as, you know how there are art curators. You are a people curator.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd say it's not even me. It's probably my energy, and that's what people keep telling me. It's like my energy creates container, and it attracts the right people, and it pushes away people who won't fit in. So yeah, excited to do more of these because I've used to do a lot of these. Took a pause for a few years, and I think this is a new one that turned out even better than the previous ones. So I'm
Yeah, it
pumped to do
was it
these
was
gatherings.
such a dynamic group and so very different, I think.
Very different. Everything from like Silicon Valley investors to, I don't know, a person who spends time with presidents of countries to software engineers to artists to actors to whatever, right? All over. To just, I guess, everybody's kind of regular people, but, or at least everybody carried themselves as regular people. Let's put it that way.
Well, and that was one of the big takeaways as well, that at the at the end of the day, the essence, I would say, of everyone is very similar. Like there's this sense of very groundedness, like, and of course, I, at any point that you get somewhere high in whatever profession you are, there is a little sense of ego because, well, you achieved something. So we all kind of pat ourselves on the back a little bit and like, okay, I made something. But it's almost like that. It was devoid of that amongst everyone, and it was just like, hey, we're all of the same mindset and the same vibration, and we're all here trying to achieve something similar in what we want out of life or what we want out of the matrix.
Well, what's interesting, before you even ask me any questions, I'll share something. Um, and something that has been unfolding on the planet. So we talked about Matrix V5 and Matrix V6. And what's interesting, because Matrix V5 is advanced evolutionary school, so it's all about accelerated evolution. The more you evolve and the faster, the better. As a result, the way the operating Matrix V5 operating system was designed. Remember, we chatted about the fact that in one part of a planet there is war, another part of a planet is paradise, another part of a planet there is starvation, another part of a planet there is abundance, and etc.
Yeah.
So V5 supports many micro matrices within that create unique theatrical sets to have a very diverse set of experiences. Whereas what V6 matrix is a unified field where everyone is on the same page. So nothing. So rather than than creating all types of friction, opposition, counteraction, basically opposing forces, because that's the fastest way really to evolve. If you're triggered, that's how you learn to interact with new types of energy. In V6, that is removed, and it's unified field where everybody is on the same page, everybody shares the same values, everyone telepathically connected, senses each other, senses environment, etc., so that the focus becomes what can we co-create together. So that's why to transition from V5 to V6, you have to really harmonize your personality. And in V6, everybody's in unified field. And what's interesting, I've been observing effects. So have a very diverse network of people who I know all over the world. And that's side note. Besides different walks of life, the number of different ethnicities also in the group, right?
Yeah.
Like so many people fluent from all over. And so where I was going was this: as I'm catching up, as I was catching, like let's call it every year, I catch up with with a broad group of people who are not necessarily everyone is close to me. Some people are close, some medium closeness, and some like we chat once every few years, right?
Yeah.
So when I would do this catch up a couple of years ago, when I was chatting with people, the way it felt, everybody lived in a different world and everybody was like pushing their own unique vector. So now as the planet shifts to V6, as I was catching up with a bunch of people, the feeling that everybody's getting on the same page and like bunch of things that created this let's call it extreme differences but also opposition and uh, did not allow to create, that energy has been subsiding and a lot of it actually started disappearing. As a result, some people who I would chat with in the past, we would kind of chat, but we would chat past each other and we would chat about, hey, I'm going there, the other person, I'm going here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very difficult to align. Now, as I was doing I did it a few months ago, the catch up calls, I was blown away. It's like we're powwowing, everybody's interested, everybody's shared, everybody's sharing, and the other person is interested in what they're sharing. They're adding things rather than saying my thing is better than your thing. And that's super exciting. And as a result, I think we've also experienced this in this gathering because I've like in the past I've hosted a bunch of these gatherings, and the funniest thing in those past gatherings, the crowd was less diverse. It was predominantly entrepreneurs and investors. So they're
Mm-hmm.
like seemingly they come from the same walk of life, understand each other. There was so much more friction. Now we get so many different walks of life, so many different countries, and there is more cohesion. So, and that's what's exciting where we're heading as a planet. And one more thing I would add, um, I looked at the transition of, I think it was, oh yeah, yesterday I woke up and I was just exploring how this transition will happen. And it's almost, so there's this V6 matrix that is really an extension of V5 matrix. It's like there was a creation module in V5, but it was very rudimentary. The creation could only happen in V5 if it led to evolution. So if you start a business or you go to a career, everything is triggering the fuck out of you because that's how you evolve. So only in that context you could create. So you couldn't just sit down and create without any, let's call it, triggering aspects or people who create problems and etc. So whereas in V6, the creation, the challenges will be faced not in a social setting because everybody is on the same page, but from the actual challenges of invention. So that's where the focus will be. So coming back to the V5 matrix, so V5 matrix is all about karma, distortions, like all types of limiting beliefs and etc. So what happens is I was like trying to figure out how does this transition energetically happens? So in reality, V5 and V6 is the same operating system. It's just an additional modules were installed, but the operating system is the same. What happens though, the amount of energy, so vibration of the planet is increasing. So hence the amount of energy that is passing through the planetary system and hence through every person on this planet is drastically increasing. So hence what happens if you have karma or you have any kind of distortions in your personality, you manifest problems in seconds because more energy, faster events. And we've discussed this, how news cycles have accelerated now, like literally. I'm like, even from like when we started the podcast, we've chatted about like one big news every like week.
Oh
Now I feel
yeah.
like 5 big news every day. Like I wasn't really checking news for a week while we are hanging out. Like yesterday, I checked the news. I was like, what is going on with the world? And then like I checked again today, and today a brand new set of news. So what I'm saying, everything accelerating. So hence people who do not harmonize their distortions, they automatically create reality that basically destroys them. They will get into all types of accidents, all types of problems, health problems, and etc. So in reality, the V5 matrix stays, and it stays well and healthy. The only thing is at a high vibrational level, unless you're in harmony, you cannot survive. And what's interesting, hence V5 matrix becomes a firewall for this planet. So low vibration beings cannot enter this planet in the future. Because if you're low vibration being, that means you have distortions in your worldview and your attitudes and your behavior and whatever. You load in this matrix, there's so much energy traveling. Let's say you feel anger. Within hours, you'll bump into somebody who'll smack you across your head with a baseball bat. And that's probably going to be end of your incarnation. So it's very interesting how this whole situation is playing out.
Hmm. Interesting. You know, kind of dovetailing on what you mentioned there about the news cycle. That was sort of the impetus for some things that I wanted to talk about actually this week. So as
Well,
we're
let's
we're
do
on the
it.
same page in so many ways here.
Here we
Um,
are. We're reading each other's mind. Telepathy is establishing.
yeah. Well, because it's sort of like a pseudo extension, but different on what we talked about last episode, where we went into Burning Man and sort
Right.
of what those events can do for the individual's mind and for um, personality implants, all sorts of different things, right?
Yeah.
So what I wanted to go into today specifically was about propaganda. And
Mm.
because if we look at how things are obviously rapidly changing, like every week, it's a new story, it's a new story, it's a new story, it's a new story, right?
Yeah.
And controlling people's thoughts through propaganda, I mean, that's, I think, as old as time. You know, I don't think this is necessarily, well, just World War II. You know, Goebbels woke up one day and said, you know, guys, let's do propaganda. And then
Yeah.
that extension went into, you know, behavioral psychology with the babies that they made cry and all this stuff. And that led into advertising as we know it, because the godfather of advertising was a behavioral psychologist, which is, again, a sense of mind control because,
Yep.
well, buy our shit, right? But I'm sure you could go back hundreds, thousands of years and somebody's telling something that is
Well,
d-
take religion.
designed,
3,000 years old, and that's a form of propaganda.
you know, designed to, yeah, shift the way that you think, alter your behaviors so that they can control you. So, first thing I want to go into is, well, how does the mind get so easily corrupted? And is all of the triad susceptible to being corrupted by outside forces, or is it simply the mind aspect within us?
Um, so first of all, I want to start with like what is actually propaganda on an
Yeah,
energetic level. So I briefly previously mentioned in previous episodes that there is an information war unfolding, and where basically different set of values being offered to people, and depending on the set of values you choose is you're gonna either end up, let's call it, in heaven or in hell, but first on this planet, which is already unfolding, right? uh like you like I'm sitting in Slovenia right now, only 3,000 kilometers from here. There's a war unfolding, right? And I'm here enjoying this peaceful, beautiful mountains, whereas another person is in hell per se, right? Being bombed every day and etc. And that ultimately, and that's the beauty of the fifth version of the Matrix. You can experience different theatricals to learn your lessons. And Matrix, at the end of the day, is just a mirror of what's inside. If you have, for example, one of your karmas is not valuing life, there's a higher chance you end up 3,000 kilometers or whatever it is from here in a war setting, where you very rapidly learn to value life.
yeah,
And hence you learn new type of energy, new type of behavior, and etc. So if and so there are we've chatted about the high vibration civilizations, low vibration civilizations, and we'll use that terminology for simplicity purposes.
yeah,
So high vibration civilizations are programming the energetic field of the planet, and low vibration civilizations done thousands of years of programming the energetic field of the planet. And that shows up as what you call propaganda. So it all starts on energetic level first. So you basically, and that's why there are souls with potentiality of architects. Those are advanced souls that are a few steps away from becoming God, or, well, shouldn't use word God because everybody's a particle of God. They're steps away from becoming absolute and becoming creators of their own universe. So those are the souls that incarnated for millions and millions of years in different sectors of universe and learn full diversity of energies. And because they've learned that full diversity of energies, now there's so much, let's call it information, which is basically different types of energy within that soul. They can create a very diverse soul. They like kind of spawn off from this soul and create their own soul. And there are neighboring, they spawn off from this universe and create new universe, which is ultimately universe. This universe is a very advanced soul. So it's all the same. And we would talk soul and spirit. Soul is just a subset of much more advanced soul, which we call spirit, which is the closest to absolute. So if, let's say, we call this universe, this container universe, so that's very, very advanced soul. Within it is spirit. There are subsets or big sectors of that soul, which we call spirit, and they're spirits, right? And then there are subsets of that spirit, which we call souls. And ultimately, that's why it kind of looks a little bit like a Russian Matryoshka doll, right? And like you keep opening up. And the more advanced you get in the avatar, the more, let's say, harmonized the avatar gets, the further you can reach in the level of consciousness. So if you're in harmony and all energetic channels are cleared, you can reach all the way to absolute, and you can feel. And people do use psychedelics to boost themselves to that state, and that's where they kind of get lost. Because when the avatar is not that advanced and they take psychedelics, that can boost capability of getting to that close place to the state of absolute, or at least the spirit, the one level, let's call it one level down, and they feel oneness. And that feeling of oneness and unconditional infinite love or absolute love is addicting. And then they come back to this body and they try to live as they're one with everything, but that is not true. You're a particle of absolute that is incarnated in this body with ego of mind, ego of soul, and ego of spirit. And each of these are unique. And then there's this weird perception that souls don't have ego and they're all fluffy white fluffy bunnies and etc. Their souls are exactly the same as these, right? They're more advanced. That, let's call it them. Mind ego is more simplistic because it is within animalistic body. That is becoming less and less animalistic as we evolve and as the vibrations of this planet increase. And I've been observing my body, like, let's say, Nikolai's body 5 years ago, where I was so subdued to any types of cravings, dopamine cravings, through like scrolling feeds, to food cravings, to sex cravings, and etc. Now these cravings disappeared. And so like those animalistic instincts subdue, because the state is where I feel it's actually a natural state of feeling oneness with the current environment. Hence there is this feeling of safety, that I will always get enough food, I have all the energy within me that I need. Hence I'm not craving food, I'm not craving love, I'm not craving sex, and blah blah blah, list goes on. So coming back to the propaganda, where I went with architect souls have ability to reprogram the matrix, or reprogram what our antennas of the, because ultimately this body is just an antenna. It's like everything is in the cloud, which is in the soul and the spirit, and this body's mind takes that energy and translates it into words, visuals, and etc. to human constructs. We tell stories, we describe pictures, what we saw, we describe feelings. Ultimately energy is first feeling, and then we bring it, so emotional body field, and then the mental, so etheric body, emotional body, and the next one is mental. So we feel it through emotional, and then the mental field explains it. Oh, I sense that there's something, this energy, let's say, in this environment is not great. Oh, it's like very low vibrational energy. Why is it? Oh, because people who lived here had a lot of fear, and there's remnants of the energy of fear. right? So basically, this body is an antenna that connects to this field. And the planet, since everything is fractal, planet has emotional body, planet has mental body. On top of that, we as collective have collective mental field, emotional field, and etc. And for example, as for the past few weeks, what I was looking into is a collective mental field and all the distortions that exist of the perceptions of the world. Like, like for example, a big one, scarcity. That is so in a collective field. And when you are unconsciously living, meaning we chatted right before the call, we chatted about meditating more. When you meditate more, you develop this ability of being a neutral observer. You start noticing how you start picking up this, for example, this energy of scarcity from the collective field. It's not even like you could have processed it already partially, but it gets magnified by crowds. So that's why living in the cities, everything gets magnified, especially all the distortions, because there's so much of that energy. And this brings me to the second part of the question, and I'll keep unpacking the whole construct as well. Is you asked if like mind or soul susceptible and etc. to this propaganda. At the end of the day, the only way to be susceptible to anything is to have some kind of an energetic distortion, which is expressed in distorted worldview or attitude. So if you have energy of scarcity within you, you will relate to any kind of news. Oh, there is like crops died and there's going to be shortage of food. Gets magnified within you. Now you're in this anxious state that I'm not going to have enough food and etc. So you can only be susceptible to any type of propaganda only if you have it within you. If you have fully harmonized yourself. And by the way, when I talk about energy, like distortions in energy equal distorted worldview and attitudes or behaviors. So you don't need to even understand energy, or you don't even need to know that energy exists. If you, for example, have a predisposition to be greedy, because for whatever reason, the way you grew up or the way like you observed behavior or could have come from previous incarnations through soul, right? Hence, you will be susceptible to anything that that exposes that energy. Hence, you will be predispositioned to propaganda where accumulate more wealth. You are not in a collective field. You're alone. You're solo. You have to walk on heads and like kill people. Like right now, I'm watching series about 90s and Russia post-Soviet Union collapse. It was straight up zoo. Like people were getting killed like flies, right? Like you want a factory, you just show up and you set up a bunch of dynamite and you basically explode, like you basically destroy the whole head office with all the people. Nobody owns the factory anymore. Now you own the factory. That's literally how people behaved, right? And but there's still many people in the V5 matrix behave that way, just not as aggressively. It's perceived that we got more civilized. Yes, partially true, but no, the methods just changed. Now you don't need to kill people. You just control them through all types of instruments, debt, contracts, and the list goes on, right? So looks less aggressive, but at the end of the day, a lot of aggression has still stayed. So coming back to propaganda, so there's this set of values that other civilizations encoded in this in the energetic field of the planet and collective consciousness of the planet, which is all the hierarchical structure, scarcity. The biggest thing from which a lot of things outflow is scarcity of, in their situation, they've developed in the low vibration parts of civilization, of universe where there is less energy. Like the further we expand from the center of universe, the less energy there is, hence the higher predisposition to live in a state of scarcity. Hence, and we've chatted about this, it's called now reptilian brain, right? Hence, all the accumulate, plan, control, and etc., all comes from a place of fearing that we will not have enough of some kind of type of energy. Either it's food, money as a proxy, right? Accommodation, warmth, etc., to survive. So they've encoded this. Now there's a bunch of advanced souls, and especially souls with potentiality of architects. And the reason I say potentiality of architects, to truly connect and enable potentiality of architect, the avatar has to get very advanced. It has to get very harmonized. Like I've met a lot of avatars, people of the souls that are very advanced architect souls, but their bodies, their avatars are like living an average life with a lot of distortions. Hence, you cannot reach as high up to be able to do the work that your soul can do. But once you connect, then the avatar start participating in the process of reprogramming this environment. And this whole transition of V5 to V6, that is exactly what's happening. So basically, at the end of the day, it's still propaganda, but it's propaganda of different values. So the energetic field gets recoded for different set of values, and the new set of values of high vibrational civilization, we live in abundance of energy. Hence, stop fighting, start creating whatever your dreams are, and let's co-create them together. But first, you gotta do the work on yourself so that you can connect to that source of energy and bring this energy here to this planet. But if you can't, because of your distortions in your channels, through distortions of worldview and attitude and behavior and etc., right? Because if more energy starts flowing to you, it will just kill you if you're not harmonized. And that's why I say energetic channels or energy is equals how we perceive the world. If we perceive the world with a bunch of distortions, that means an energetic channels kind of mimic, and they are the fundamental aspects. I should say differently. For example, our nervous system and like blood vessel system mimics energetic channels that exist in our body energetically. So when they're like twisted, and if you push a bunch of energy through, it just basically starts burning and creating attracting events where you can just die. Meaning, let's say something is twisted because of anger or greed or whatever, you end up in a situation, because Matrix is just a mirror, where you run out of food and money, and hence your avatar is in discomfort or ultimately dies. So it's similar analogy as if our blood vessels get blocked, right? And you go and do strenuous activity, like you ride a bike with us here in the mountains, or go for one of the hikes, there's a higher chance to have stroke or heart attack or whatever, right? It's probably stroke. That's the correct terminology there. So hence, the job of everyone now is to harmonize themselves so they can bring more energy, so they become energetically sovereign. And that automatically, the other propaganda that is starting to expand on this planet, that there is enough energy and there are superpowers in this body once you connect to your soul and spirit, where you can have anything and everything, and nobody is scarce of any resources, and you can create anything you imagine. And that's where we're heading in V6. And hence, there are remnants with the news. There are the other civilizations. The reason they're still fighting, the less souls that connect with the avatars here and do the work, there is a higher chance that those souls will incarnate and travel with those low vibration civilizations to low vibration parts of the space. Hence, they will remain being energetic batteries per se in some scenarios to the other civilizations. So if you can, like, if you cannot, let's say, navigate your greed, you'll incarnate in sector of universe where you can continue playing the games of greed, which is lower vibrational space of universe, and with those other civilizations. So you can continue your evolution till you figure it out, right? Till you're ready for high vibrational space. And that's, at the end of the day, is propaganda and information wars that are happening. And right now, there is two factors that are unfolding. Number one, there is, as I mentioned already, more energy, hence everything happens faster. So there's a perception that propaganda gets more intense, but it's a perception. It's just more energy. And yes, there is ultimately pressure to choose which camp you want to join, Do you want to go to high vibration part of the universe with this planet, or do you want to reincarnate in another part of universe that's going to be in low vibrational space and continue your evolutionary journey of learning how to be harmonious? So that's propaganda.
Okay, so a couple things I just wanted to touch on there. So there's one podcast that I often listen to. I find it quite interesting in terms of just deconstructing what's going on in news, right? Because they just deconstruct it, and often sometimes they'll play supercuts, and supercuts are always fascinating to me because they'll have about probably 100 anywhere between 50 and 200 different news sources, and you'll watch how they cut out the specific language patterning in the news because they all somehow got the exact same script that they're saying. And when
I
you
saw that. Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and when you
You don't even
play,
need to go far. You go to X and look at few different politicians, and they use exactly the same words.
yeah, but when you have them stacked for like 5 or 10 minutes, you go, "Oh my god." Like it's like they're reading all these different people, and they're reading the same exact thing, or they're telling the
Yep.
people and it's the same language patterning because again, it's the repetitive nature that they want to put on the person's brain or onto society. So thinking about that, what I wanted to go into here was what methods, because we talked about this in the quote unquote Burning Man episode, what methods
Yep.
are available to condomify, if that's even a word, but we're going to use, right? Put that condom over your mind against the disease of propaganda when
Yeah.
they're using tools specifically designed to through repetitive mentioning of whatever, and then using the different sources that they have available in terms of broadcasting to sort of control what you are thinking or distort your world view. So yeah, if we're thinking about, okay, we're going into society, we're going into the world, what
Yep.
is the metaphorical brain condom that we can then put on to sort of protect ourselves from the disease out there, right?
I love the analogy and the imagery. Um,
Uh,
few things. Number one, especially as people start exploring spirituality, they get caught up in this trap because once you realize there are like all these, let's call them low vibrational energies and influences and energetic attacks and entities and implants and all that stuff, the first reaction is to protect yourself from that.
yeah.
Hence, the next question that gets born is, where do I find energetic condom, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
to protect from all these entities and viruses and blah, blah, blah. And now we're bringing it a level higher from energetic level to the mental field level. But at
Yes.
the end of the day, it's all energetic, right?
Yeah.
So where I'm going with this, all these protections don't really work. And what I mean by that, they require a lot of energy to manage. And
Mhm.
usually they take more energy than the benefit you get. And the real protection is to harmonize yourself. You cannot be influenced by propaganda if that predisposition doesn't exist in you. And the reason there's this tendency to look for this energetic or mental or brain condom, right, is because the human nature is to point finger externally, to always look at the external causation or external reason or external bad person who is causing those things,
Mhm.
uh, rather than owning it, that it's all theirs, because you cannot be influenced until that energy exists in you. And hence, then that energy outside comes into resonance within you and it gets magnified and you get reprogrammed. So it's all yours at the end of the day. So if anybody observes that they succumbs to some kind of propaganda, I don't know, like Democrats in US subscribe to the values, that means there are distortions in the worldview attitude, which means there are distortions in the energy originally that predisposition the person to succumb to that propaganda. And then they start blaming, oh, it's Republicans, they're assholes, that's why I subscribe to Democrats. At the end of the day, you are the asshole. And meaning that garbage isn't you. And you were just, by external events, you fell into a specific type of resonance. So the idea is to always turn that focus from looking for reasons outside and looking for, since people look for reasons outside, hence they look for the protection outside. And that's why it's so much energy wasted. Whereas as you turn the attention inwardly, and you're like, why do I really get attracted to, let's say, I don't know, Charlie Kirk's movement? Because like some of his movement is great, some of his movement is not that great, right? And so why am I attracted to this? Is it because of the great parts? Or is it because of the not great parts? And then you start succumbing to this like, oh, like I think I believe, like, I don't have enough context, but like a lot of people on X, I'm just quoting, the saying he was like racist in some situations, but at the same time, he has a lot of very diverse, ethnically diverse friends. So
Yeah.
like, is he racist? I don't know. But let's say take this as an example. If that exists in you, then then some of the statements he'll make that might not be even racist will be perceived as racist, and the person will subscribe to that movement and say, oh, he's pro-white, freedom or whatever it is, right? And then what happens as well, we perceive through our own distorted lens, and a lot of times it's not what even the movement or people say, or it's not even what the propaganda says. We selectively choose, interpret through our distortions, and start perceiving that's how that propaganda group is. So the whole idea is always to turn it inwardly. Why am I drawn to this type of worldview or behavior? Harmonize it. And then no matter how many times news cycle, how many Twitter accounts or media stations will repeat the same thing, it will not impact you. It will just not even enter your field. It's like you won't even hear it. If the TV is playing in a background, like let's say you're sitting in an airport and there's like TV playing or some waiting room, like it will not register with you. However, that energy exists in you, background hearing picks up, and you're like, turn attention there. Oh, that's yes, I'm so for this, I'm so for or I'm so against this. That's because the energy is within.
It's funny because again, news cycles since we got back
Yeah.
from Slovenia, or at least, well, you're still there. I mean, I just got back, right? But when you're talking about these unharmonized energies, like I just saw something crazy where now I don't know if you saw this, there's these TikTokers where they're pregnant women, and now they are
Yeah.
compelled to take large amounts of Tylenol because Trump said, well, that could cause autism. You shouldn't take Tylenol when you're pregnant. And they're all like, the unharmonized energy is like, no, let's take as much as possible. I mean, because you think about that energy,
Just as
like,
a fuck you to Trump.
yeah, but it's like, this is
Wow.
your
That's the
child.
beauty.
And
That's self-selection of this world, right?
but
You want to
even
self-select yourself out of evolution, be lack harmony, right?
yeah, but I'm just thinking, like, even if, because I mean, on one hand, it's like, well, could be bullshit. On the other hand, well, maybe there is truth to it. Either way, what is the the unharmonized energy that compels someone that even if this is harmful, I'm going to go into this energy to prove some point or to belong to my ideological
Yeah.
group, or to belong to this egregor that says, well, it's black or white.
Yeah. So when I look into that on the deepest level, it's an energy of victimhood. And it's like we're victims and we're going to be victims even further by messing up with our bodies and pregnancies and etc. Against whatever the people are saying. We're going to go deeper into this victimhood energy. And that's, by the way, if we look predominantly like at Democrats and a lot of democratic communities and groups, if you look deep into that, there's so much victimhood. And by the way, the
Yeah.
energy of victim is one of the lowest vibration energy. Hence, it's like people do so much irrational crap. It's so easy to inspire them to do stupidity, like killing people. I don't know, like the amount of violent protests, burning things, breaking things, and etc. And since there is such a deep energy of victimhood, the the opposite is extreme version of aggression because it has to somehow balance, right?
Mm.
So in moments, because you're sitting in this energy and brewing in this energy of victim, you need to like the method you use to protect the deepest and crazy accumulation of victimhood is the craziest version of aggression. Whereas if you're right in the middle, you're okay. You're not a victim and you don't need to express aggression. You can just speak. You can just, if somebody gets physical, you can just push them away. There's no need to kill them, right?
Yeah.
And everything gets so crazily polarized. So the way I describe it, right? We've chatted about with you about this, right? If you only build the biceps, you're gonna walk around with your arm like this when you never build a tricep, right?
Yeah.
So to every energy, there are two extremes. And sometimes you need to go to both extremes for preferably short period of time to find where the golden middle is, golden center is, right?
Yeah.
And the great example that I experienced many of them because that comes across all energies, because you're literally at the end of the day, you're learning the full spectrum of energy. And the full spectrum of energy has like different levels of intensity. So an example that always comes to mind, Nikolai used to be impulsive. So that's one spectrum of energy. And I was not like structured or organized. Structured and organized this side of spectrum. So Nikolai was impulsive, was living super impulsive life, and did a lot of like stupid and crazy things. And then Nikolai, as he wanted to be very successful entrepreneur and started spending time in San Francisco, went on a complete opposite of the extreme of being very structured or organized, where I run everything in my life through spreadsheets, like including going on dates. Like after every date, I would like record insights, create rankings. It was just idiotic in my life. And I clearly remember this moment. I was like, I had the standing desk, like all the Silicon Valley people, and I'm standing by this window. There was beautiful view, and I'm like cranking just another spreadsheet. I don't know what that spreadsheet was. I don't remember what that spreadsheet was related to. And I'm like, I have no joy in life. My life just sucks. But then I look back at impulsive life and I was like, it was more joyful, but that caused a lot of side effects, a lot of consequences. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I know how to be impulsive. I know how to be structured. Now I just move into the middle. And then there is no extreme. And now basically I understand that energy holistically. And then there's no need to express in any of the extremes. The beauty is that you have access to extremes. There might be a project or there might be a situation where you gotta go, I don't know, you're building some kind of very advanced technology, and if you screw it up, like the whole city can explode, right? You might want to go into extreme of being extra organized and attentive and etc., right? You're on vacation, you want to go to impulsive where like you didn't plan it. Let's say you book 7 days on one location. It's like, I wake up and today I feel like cycling. You go cycling, you know? So, and the beauty is that then you have access to full range. And that's ultimately what happens as a one side effects of propaganda. Let's say you have a distortion of like being a bit impulsive, and
Mm,
then there is resonance, and then you start attracting information, either statements by people or books or whatever that says be more impulsive. So it pushes you further into this extreme, and it starts causing a bunch of side effects, right? Like you make an impulsive decision, you decide, I don't know, to get wasted on 2 at 2 a.m. Till 6 party till 6 a.m. and you have 9 a.m. investor call, and that goes really bad as a result. Uh, you learn. So you learn that, okay, now we go closer to the center because that screwed up opportunity, that screwed up my life, that screwed up my business, and etc. But propaganda can take you like Silicon Valley propaganda, run everything through spreadsheet. That's propaganda. I went super deep,
yeah,
right? But the beauty of that, all of those experiences are evolutionary experiences. So as long as you start seeing that propaganda and that information as an opportunity for growth, then you win in life because you're like, oh, okay, like, I went too deep into, I don't know, democratic movement. Why? Oh, because I was in resonance of like this victimhood. Why I was okay. Oh, okay. Maybe I'm not a victim at all. It's all like I should get my shit together. Let me start taking responsibility for my life, and then you start building yourself up. And the beauty is that all experience is very valuable because it allows you to experience the extremes. And once you experience one extreme, you know how not to live. And sometimes it's impossible to know how not to live without going there.
yeah. So next thing I want to go into here, and we'll see where this goes. So how do we determine quote unquote truth? And taking the perspective of quantum physics, we were studying this recently, so this is very top of mind.
Yeah.
Like even in, and I'm sure there's more, but the quantum physicists now say, well, there's at least two parallel universes because we have matter and we have antimatter, right?
Mm.
And so there's this discussion that, well, through the power of observation, we bring something into reality. So it's like Schrodinger's cat. They'll say, well, the cat is both dead and alive at the same time in the box, because until we
Mm-hmm.
look, we get to determine, well, is the cat still alive or is the cat dead? Right? So is there no real truth? Are there multiple truths? How does one operate in the matrix without having truth? And I know that's a
Yeah, and
mouthful, but
yeah, this is a great question because usually that is exactly what gets used to distort information. Like, for example, like an example I've given, somebody takes mushrooms or I don't know, LSD and gets shot up with a jet engine to the high levels of consciousness where they experience oneness, and then you come back to the body and you say, "Oh, I'm one with everything." And is there oneness or is there separation? Right?
yeah,
And the beauty of this universe both exist at the same time. Part of you is connected to the spirit and absolute that is one. But then there is a body with mind and with its ego, and the soul and with its ego, and that's the separation. And what happens, that I've seen as a side effect of psychedelics, is people get stuck in that state of oneness. Well, listen, if you were not in that body, be fucking one for as long as you want. Right? Like you're just energy there and you're part of the big energetic field, and yeah, you're connected. But if you're part of the body, there is a reason you're incarnated here. And through those ego constructs, we're able to evolve. We're able to learn things, right? So nobody, and like that's what happens. Like people, oh, I'm one, I'm just sitting here, I don't need to do anything. And people become like inactive, or people become like super energetically open, where, oh, because I'm one, I'm like energetically open to anything and everything. Then basically all of their energy gets taken by people whose job is to take energy, either parasites or darks, And they lose money, they lose comfort in their physical life, then they lose health, and then they lose disincarnation, right? So the whole idea both exist. So if you sit in meditation and your vibration is high enough, you can reach that state of oneness where you feel, let's say, in a micro level, you feel the whole planet. Then on a macro level, you feel absolute. You literally experience the state of absolute where you feel the whole universe. But then you ultimately go back and you're here, and this body, is it separate? No, because it's all energy. We perceive it. It's all hologram. But through this illusion of separation, we're able to evolve faster. So it's just a very powerful game that is created where separation enables us to evolve much faster, rather than just being in a form of energy in a specific sector of universe. And remember, we chatted about this. If you're like a yellow color in a rainbow and you want to learn purple, like, you don't reach purple. But the beauty is that you incarnate here in this body, you can touch any form of energy because everybody's in the same body. So now you can learn a lot of shapes and forms of energy, or I should say colors and frequencies and what is it, amplitudes of energies,
Mm-hmm.
just being in this body. So basically, and that's the thing. Everything like what I've discovered in this universe, both sides of the extremes exist at the same time. And the truth is recognizing that. And once you start recognizing that, then you actually live a wholesome and impactful, as well as very productive, joyful life. Because people could get stuck in separation. Let's say in this, I'm just this body and I gotta feed it and survive. Don't see a grander picture. People who get stuck in the grand picture stop managing the avatar correctly, and that falls apart. So, and it comes back to this concept of both extremes, so it's so-called duality, right? Getting stuck in either of the sides of the duality creates side effects, and most of the times unpleasant side effects. And that's
So,
why go ahead.
well, no. So would we say then that really truth, or even the closest semblance of what? Because again, it's to say what is true, what is not true. But is the truth always sort of found in the middle? Then, just generally speaking.
I would say not in the middle. The truth is found in seeing the whole picture. Because if you try to optimize just for the middle, if you don't observe the two sides of the two extremes, how do you know
Mhm.
where the middle is? And you
Yeah.
can find the extremes through the experiences, which is sometimes enjoyable, sometimes very not enjoyable. Or you can find those extremes through uh, observing others. So the most advanced learner observes the behavior and experiences of others and can feel the energy, can derive the lessons, hence accelerates the lessons, right? And evolution. The slower version, you live through everything yourself, right? like, like we chatted about being impulsive and constructive, and let's say we chat about it, Mitch was like, you know what? I'm gonna go learn being impulsive and just like live 6 months being impulsive and see the side effects of that, how that side of energy works. And then you're like, you know what? Okay, I got it. Now I'm gonna be super organized versus, you know what? And by the way, the beauty is that, and the one of the reasons why it's important to have teachers on this planet is when I talk about it and when I'm describing this organized and impulsive, I am transferring that energy, the knowledge about energy, to you so that you don't have to go and live through that. So if you're open to the right people and attentive and curious and want to absorb like a sponge, you can absorb a lot of that knowledge energetically from the other person, even if you didn't understand the concept. And then when the situations present, you, rather than like spending impulsive 6 months, spending organized, I don't know, 6 years, you can just play it out in one single week. And then like, oh, I get how it works. here, 2 days I was impulsive, 2 days I was organized. Okay, I get a full range. I have a whole picture of this energy, and now I can be centered and throttle in either direction depending what consciously choose how to behave depending on situation. Okay, here I got to be more organized. Here I can just let it go.
So if we look at truth being exactly what you said, it's like the truth is
The
being
whole
able to
picture.
see, being able to see both sides, being able to see
Yeah.
like the being able to see the two extremes and the whole picture. And then, since I guess whether we say that the mind, the soul, the spirit, but this avatar has quote unquote free will, is it then that once we see the whole picture, we actually just go choose what is true to us? We choose our truth.
So the free will exists on this planet, but it is heavily influenced by people's distortions.
Mm,
Do you see what I mean? So
yeah.
if you have predisposition to be impulsive because that's the environment you grew up in, right?
Hmm.
So that's a distortion in your energetic field, in your worldview and your attitude that will lean you towards that side of the extreme. People think it's free will, but in reality, it's the opposite of free will. And they're like, oh, I choose to be impulsive. The true free will arises when you saw the whole picture, you know how the energy works, and you consciously choose how to behave in the situation depending on the situation. Do you see what I
Mm,
mean? Then you have a full access to the full spectrum
yeah.
of energy. You're like, in this situation, I'll be impulsive. In this situation, I'll be organized. That is a true free will. But if you're always leaning, tilting to the free will, or to free will, to impulsive, or being super structured where you have no joy in life, right? That's not a free will. That is a distortion. And people think, oh, that's how I'm wired. In reality, when we get to very advanced states of evolution or harmonization of this personality, you start experiencing the state of, like, I don't know how to describe otherwise, superhuman, where you can do anything and everything. You can wear any hat. Like you can wake up and you've never built a house, you can go build a house and you can figure it out intuitively. I don't know, you need to create a process to operate a community. You sit down and you activate the structure energy and systems energy, and you create that. And that's a true free will, because you've learned how to operate very diverse set of energies and not be triggered by them, and you use all of them as instruments. So you're sitting with this massive toolbox and you're facing some kind of situation, and you're like, I have 700,000 different tools. And this is the tool I'm going to use here in this session with Mitch, in this conversation with Mitch, or whatever, because
Hmm.
he is experiencing this unique situation. And that is true free will, versus I walk into a meeting with free will, with Mitch, and I'm like, oh, I got to show my status. Is that free will? Not really. That's just a distortion and an energy where I want to first demonstrate my status and then talk with Mitch.
Mm, yeah. Okay. Well, that's it for this week.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna add one last thing. That's, by the way, to
Y-
tie it back to propaganda, where we started.
Yeah.
That's why propaganda is possible here,
Mm,
because people hit free will. So you cannot deny Nikolai to be impulsive for all of his 20s, because based on his distortion, he chooses to be impulsive. As a result, Nikolai chooses to make all types of energetic contracts, which take energy from him, because, like, I feel like drinking. Okay, I made a contract with alcohol in Gregor. I feel like smoking weed. I made a contract with weed in Gregor, right? And the list goes on, right? And now you've basically started giving away all your energy to, like, let's say I hang out with somebody, and said, yeah, like made some kind of promise. I made a contract with that person because I have free will, right? Through free will, I can make any kind of contract. And while I have distortions, I make contracts based on those distortions. And what happens is that you're basically starting giving away tons and tons of your energy to these egregors, to these people that you made promises, to these people who we like around who you feel guilty or you have to show status and blah, 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 right? And as a result, you constantly gain drained of energy. You have to maintain all that crap. Whereas as you harmonize, you start and you live life consciously. That's why meditations are so powerful, because you start sensing when the outflow of energy starts. Like, Jack made a great example. I'm not sure if you heard it. It's one of the people who were part of the group here in Slovenia. He is learning not to make contracts, and he was leaving a hotel in Italy to drive to Slovenia, and he has a tendency to say, "See you later." That's a micro contract. Guess what? And he chatted with his girlfriend, and he was like, "Shit, I think I made a contract here." An hour later, into a road or whatever amount of time, they discover they forgot they get a call from the hotel, and they're like, "Your passports are still here in the safe in the room," and they're like, "Oh, I gotta turn around," right? So that's a micro example, and that happens through free will, and that's, by the way, what low vibration civilization programmers, architects use for you to subscribe scarcity, 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 scarcity. Like, okay, we're living in scarcity, hence I have to work harder. I have to give away all the energy. I have to be worried. I have to plan. I have to control everything. I have to be anxious. What if my plan doesn't work out? Blah, 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 blah. And like, you just give away all that energy. The other side, which is being programmed onto the planet, it's like, focus inwardly, remove all these distortions that permit others taking energy from you or permit others to brainwash you or to negatively influence you. Become sovereign, because now there's nothing to attach to, because you're like, I'm at peace. And it's like, you cannot brainwash me. Now I'm sovereign. And now you go and create your, I don't know, dream environment of build a house, family, co-create with other sovereign co-creators, build a spaceship that actually can travel to other sectors of the universe, and etc., rather than barely making it to the moon. So that is the part that is very critical, where we give away. And the reason I'm mentioning it, in business, there's such a concept as, well, you probably know it from marketing, leaky bucket, right?
Yeah.
So there's this energy. And right now, most of the avatars on this planet are leaky buckets because of those distortions. So even if you put more energy on top, it's just being given
It's
out.
leaking out.
And yeah. And the term in business, right? If you add 10 clients, but you lose 5, that's a pretty shitty business, because you're always on the treadmill to grow the business. So in this scenario, that's the existence of almost every person on this planet. And then they get surprised. Why don't I get what I desire? Well, because when you're trying to manifest, all the energy that is here, you've already given away through contracts or given away through contracts to others. So there's barely any energy left for your dreams. So, and that's why, like, subscribing to this propaganda, being part of like Charlie Kirk movement or guru movement or this movement or that movement, the idea is to use these as inspiration to evolve. As you get to the, I don't know, Charlie Kirk movement, and I don't know about it much, learn, take away great things, and move on to the next one. You meet some kind of guru and they share things with you, learn from them and move on. And when you learn not to attach and not to establish these rigid contracts and relationships, you're able to evolve even faster. And in some scenarios, you'll stay part of something for a long time. And that could be a structure that built harmoniously, where everybody is perceived as a sovereign being. And you're like, oh, within this structure, I feel sovereign. I feel like I can express myself and I don't give away energy. I'll stay in this forever. But right now on this planet, most of the structures are created to take energy from you. But at the same time, they give you lessons. So hence we don't, as we talked about Burning Man. Burning Man is a spectacular experience to to lose a lot of energy, to interact with a lot of different types of energies, which is also growth. So it's not, and once again, come back to the truth, right? Is the truth that Burning Man is like demonic, shitty place, or it's an enlightening, amazing place? Both of them are true. Because
Yeah.
everybody's experience will be individual, and both predisposition for both types of experiences exists there. It exists everywhere. So hence, when anyone discovers that they start leaning hard into one side, you've already starting to be heavily distorted, or there is a distortion that you need to address. If you're like, I'm so Republican, blah, blah, blah. Time to analyze what makes you so Republican.
Yeah.
At
Yeah,
the
it
end of the
makes
day,
me
when you're in this, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it makes me think that the highest, or not gonna say highest, thing that an individual needs to pay attention to, but definitely it seems one of the most important is simply understanding what you spoke about in terms of energy, and
Yeah.
how am I in control of my energy?
Yeah, we are to become truly sovereign. You need to learn to manage energy.
Yeah.
In business terms, to become a sovereign business, you need to become profitable, and to become profitable, you need to learn how to manage money. So most startups that we call humans on this planet are not profitable. They're consumers of energy, and that brings me to the next very important factor of why this transition V5 to V6 matrix is so critical. And important. Right now, most avatars are supported by energy of the matrix, and the energy of the matrix is filled up by very few what we called saint beings. The saint being is just a person who synchronized with their soul and spirit, and it could be a guy who has no church, who has nothing, just living an average life, but done the work on themselves to synchronize with soul and spirit. So they have synchronized triads. So they're channeling energy and they bring energy to the matrix to basically support all the other beings who haven't done that yet. That functionality, not functionality, that opportunity is disappearing, because as this being who's bringing energy here start to bring more and more, so basically there are more and more people who synchronize with Triad and bring more and more energy to this planet. The avatars who haven't synchronized start their events in life start accelerating. Hence, wherever there's karma, the events come faster and more intense. So ultimately, they just kill themselves through either health problems or, I don't know, some kind of accidents or etc. So that is what unfolding. And in spirituality, it's true. Right now, very few advanced people are batteries for the rest. So that's why some people who don't see the whole picture, when they become batteries, they get very fucking annoyed and they try to disconnect from Matrix, which is not the case. We came here into this Matrix consciously. We knew what we signed up for. We're pumping energy for other people to awaken and become independent sources of energy as well. So whereas, and this an example, another example, what is truth here, that a person is a battery or not a battery. It's both at the same time, right? Like advanced soul connected, fully synchronized with avatar is bringing a lot of energy here, acting as battery to this matrix, for this nature to exist, for this for other people to exist, for this hologram, for this game to keep going on. But the rules of the game are shifting because more and more energy is being brought here. So hence, whoever harmonizes becomes source of energy. And that's why this whole transition is exponential. With every person who synchronizes with Triad, substantially more energy reaches this planet. So
Yeah.
hence, for every next person, it becomes more, the experience becomes more intense, the news cycle becomes more intense, and etc. etc. Become energy supplier to this matrix. And what happens as a next stage, this planet accumulates so much energy that we can, right now, the way we manifest things, we attract them into our individual matrix, into our reality. So let's say I want a house. I basically create a manifestation for a house. and then through some kind of opportunities, money show up in my field to buy a house, or somebody gifts me a house, or whatever. That's how we create right now in the V5 matrix, because there's not enough energy. So a lot of people need to gather together to build a fucking house, so that then Nikolai can buy it or win it in lottery or whatever it be, like for it to be gifted. In
Mhm.
V6, the density of energy is so high that you sit, and with your intention, you grow the house out of the matter.
Mm.
That's where we're going,
Yeah.
because there's substantially more dense energy, so you can create matter. Right now we can't create matter, so hence we go through this fucking very long supply chain. Right, some dude in China made a tap, some dude in India made a carpet, some dude in Texas, I don't know, dug up some sand and made cement, right? And then we build a house. That is how like slow and inefficient the system is, and all that is accelerating, and people who don't know how to manage energy well get destroyed by the energy, because it's like fire hose of energy, right? If you cannot hold it, it just kills you. But if you know how to manage it, because you're fully in harmony, then you take this fire hose and you go, what would I like to create today? It's like, I'd like to create a house. And of course, like as it gets even more advanced, then the house probably can be grown at some like very advanced levels, high vibration levels in a day. But let's say where we're heading might take few years, and it like appears in matter, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so it's very interesting future ahead of us, but there's still a lot of work to get done today and now.
All right. Well, thank you for dissecting propaganda for me, and that was great. And yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. More,
Likewise.
more, more entering the matrix, more understanding the matrix, more being one with the matrix.